For centuries, libraries have been the heart and soul of learning, nurturing inquisitive minds, and fostering a love for reading. But a new education system initiative implemented by the Houston Independent School District is causing controversy and making waves as Superintendent Mike Miles plans to replace traditional libraries with discipline centers for misbehaving students and establish teen centers for remote learning. All that and more this morning with Reshonda Tate Billingsley. She is the managing editor of the Defender Network and the author of 53 books, and she has earned a plethora of awards for writing, including an NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Literature and a Texas Literary Hall of Fame honor. And she also has two movies based on her books. And Reshonda also co-founded a publishing company, and she is not too happy with what's going on in her home state. Good morning, Reshonda.
Good morning. Yeah, this is one of those stories we're supposed to stay objective as a journalist, but this story cut at my core because I'm a product of the Houston Independent School District, and it was those libraries that nurtured my love of reading and my love of writing. And so to take those libraries away from so many of our children, predominantly Black and brown kids, because that's what HISD is, and say, okay, we're going to focus on discipline. I get it. There's a discipline problem in Houston, in the Houston schools. But why does it have to be either or? What message are you saying to our young people when you say we're going to take your libraries away from you and make those into disciplinary centers?
What's the rationale behind this? What is the rationale that they're trying to at least give behind eliminating libraries and replacing them with discipline centers?
Well, so the Houston Independent School District has been taken over by the state. So the Texas Education Agency came in and they took over and they appointed a superintendent, Mike Miles, who is a Governor Greg Abbott appointee. This all comes down from Governor Greg Abbott. And again, I'm going to always throw in there, this is why we need to vote. This is why we don't need to stay home, because we think, decisions don't have long lasting impact. This is a direct result of who you put in that top spot in the state of Texas. But their rationale is they're trying to turn the district around. The reading scores are low, and so they're trying to continue to build those up. But how do you build those up when you're taking away the very core of what our children need?
Yeah, it just seems to go along with what Republican governors like DeSantis and, of course, Abbott and others are doing across the country, eliminating books and, in this case, libraries. Reshonda, how has the community, including like city leaders and parents, especially parents, responded to this plan?
They are in an uproar. We've had our state representatives. We've had our congressional representatives, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who's also running for Houston mayor, Congressman Al Green. Our Houston mayor is just livid. He's been going toe to toe with the superintendent because they're basically saying this is a libraries to prison pipeline. The NAACP has come out against it. We really have seen people in an uproar. Now, I have seen a couple of parents, because we've been talking a lot to parents and the community members. I see a small percentage of parents who are like, well, kids don't go to the library anyway.
Oh, gosh.
And that, that argument, it just irks me to no end, because, yeah, there is a shift toward kids are more digital, but libraries are portals to the world, and we're closing that door on our students. And it is these parents here are outraged. Sheila Jackson Lee and the mayor have both said they've hinted at they're not going to let this pass. The Houston Independent School District is under a board of managers now, and they're the only ones that can stop this. And they were appointed by Greg Abbott. But I think Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is exploring federal things she can do on a federal level to stop this.
Talk about, if you will, librarians. The removal of librarians, how has that impacted the overall learning environment in schools?
Yeah, so what's happening is these librarians are there for not just the books. They're opening up worlds of technology, digital, giving kids digital access, and you're shutting the door on all of that. You're taking them away, and they're saying, well, books will still be available for the kids to come in and check them out. on an honor system, but we're going to put the bad kids in the library. And again, you're associating books with the bad kids. So that's where we're putting the bad kids. The librarians have had such an impact. It was a librarian who told me when I said, I want to rewrite the ending to Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I believe you can do it. Let me read it when you've done it. And that just kind of sparked creativity in me. So you're going to see, just all across the Houston Independent School District, this having a negative impact where reading comprehension scores are already severely low.
With the implementation of these so-called discipline centers and team centers or whatever they want to call them, what specific plans have they laid out to ensure at least some sort of balanced approach to discipline and learning for misbehaving students?
So basically what they're doing is if a child is misbehaving in a classroom, Mike Miles is of the belief that remove the child from the classroom so the rest of the students can learn. We understand that. But Houston is full of trailers and portable buildings and temporary buildings. Put the kids in there. Why are you taking the library away? And so their argument is, well, right now the library isn't important. We're trying to focus on discipline and focus on making sure the kids that are left in the classroom can do it. Now, they are targeting 28 schools first. Then it's branching out to 57 schools. Well, the Defender did a report, and we looked at the percentage of those schools that are in predominantly African American. And the majority of those schools are predominantly African American. They're not over in the white schools taking away the libraries. And so we have a problem with that.
Well, you certainly do have a problem with that, and it prompted you to write an entire opinion column on this. You don't often do that. You got so many other responsibilities, but this really moved you.
It did. I was extremely passionate about it because how many other literary lights are being extinguished? How many other kids, even if they don't want to be writers, you need writing skills, reading skills to get into college. We're closing the door on that. I have to wonder, would I have 53 books if HISD had closed its libraries when I was coming up? If there weren't librarians there to help me understand that I could write and to introduce me to a love of reading. The argument they're making here is, well, we can have teachers have books in the classroom. Well, number one, you're threatening teachers left and right with the type of books in the classroom. So teachers are scared to even put books on their shelves. And number two, where are you going to add this? The teachers already have a list of things they have to do. They're overworked and underpaid. Where are you going to add now being a librarian?
Yeah. And so what vision have they articulated for student development?
So the Mike Miles has really come, and he has gotten these 28 schools. He calls them new education system. He's come to Houston, and he's implementing a program that didn't work in Dallas, a program that he came under fire for when he was in Dallas as the superintendent. But Greg Abbott thinks he's what's needed to turn this around. So the Texas Education Agency has appointed him to focus on those schools. And basically what he's doing is he's giving all these teachers the same lesson plans, the same curriculum, and they will be rewarded based on that. He's taking the money from the library. To his defense, he'll say, I'm taking those resources, the money from that, and I'm putting it other places. Our thing is, again, it doesn't have to be either or. And, right. And I say are because I have to remove myself as a journalist when I'm covering this because I am passionate about it.
Yeah. Have they produced any type of documentation, some studies or anything that support some sort of effectiveness of these centers and removing libraries on improving student behavior and academic performance?
No, absolutely not. And that's part of the argument here is that you're coming here, you're bringing something that we saw didn't work in Dallas, but you're coming here, you're bringing this, you're trying to change it around because Mike Miles's background is charter schools. So you're trying to do what you did, what you say worked at your own personal charter schools on a whole district of Black and brown kids that face a different set of challenges that your kids in the charter schools face. And so they're really just coming in. The teachers now will be rewarded based on testing. We know how our kids do with tests. So that's another whole issue. You know, they're going now before the district. We've had mass exodus of teachers. Over 800 teachers quit behind this new thing. So they have gone to the state and they said, can we just hire anybody? They have
Wow.
asked for permission to have uncertified teachers. That means if you went to college and your major was basket weaving, hey, come on in and teach math over here at this HISD school. And so, you know, that's what our kids are going to see when they come back to school.
And that's interesting because earlier, just a couple of moments ago, you mentioned that this was affecting a district that is predominantly um, black and individuals of color. This these teachers quitting. This is not from the other districts, right?
And no, these are teachers that are quitting the Houston Independent School District and going to other districts, or they're getting out altogether because they don't want to be mandated by test score results. And they're quitting these positions and heading out, and that leaves a void in all of these schools.
Wow. So no one to teach. And they talk about remote learning. Uh, uh, what are they going to do to support remote learning?
So the kids that will be in the library under the disciplinary centers under that tutelage, they will be on Zoom. So they will zoom into the classroom that they've just been brought out of. So essentially, if your child gets in any kind of trouble at school, we're gonna put them in the library and we're gonna have them on Zoom and hope that solves our disciplinary problem. It doesn't make sense, and people have blasted Mike Miles about it. He
Hmm.
says he's not going to govern the largest school district by a press conference or press release. So he said he's not playing politics. He's not going to address it. He says it's a lot of misinformation going on, but people have said, well, then come tell us
Right.
what the right information is. And you know, he's standing by his these this will work.
Wow. Are there, did they lay out any alternative strategies before they considered doing this?
No, this is what he came in. He came in and just basically said, "I'm eliminating these libraries," and that's what the NAACP said is it is a school to jail pipeline because you're corralling these kids in the library as a detention center. And what's the next step from there? Since they're on Zoom and you just kind of remove them, then next step is, of course, jail or prison. And that's what they're trying to prevent. But that's not what he believes will happen under the direction of Greg Abbott and the Texas Education Agency.
And so this is going to roll out this coming school year.
Yes, and the school year starts at the in 2 weeks on the 27th, the last week of August. And yeah, it's rolling out, it's ready, and nothing can stop it except that board of managers, and they are deathly silent on this.
Wow. Any you mentioned earlier about the outrage from parents, the NAACP, and other groups. Have there been any demonstrations? Have there been any plans to confront the district, the board, or Miles or anyone?
Yes, the NAACP will have a protest on August 5th outside of the headquarters for the HISD, the Houston Independent School District. And they're basically going and they're asking the public to come out in droves. We're expecting a big turnout. Again, will it do anything except let our voices be heard? We're having to count on our congressional representatives and the mayor. Believe me, they're fired up about it. The mayor just went completely off. He put aside that professional hat and let his brother come out for a minute because you know this is enraging for those of us that really care about the Houston Independent School District. And Miles is just like, let us do this, and why don't you wait and see what happens?
And again, you mentioned about the prospect of lawsuits and things of that nature. Is there a way at all, particularly at this late day, because like you said, the school year starts in a couple of weeks? Is there any way to halt this, to stop this?
Because it's coming from the very top, the Texas Education Agency. That the Mike Morath is appointed by Governor Abbott. And so the only way to stop it is if the board of managers votes against it. Well, they've been appointed by the state as well, so they won't be voting against it. There is no legal authority to force Mike Miles to change course.
So perhaps, and again, to go back to what you mentioned earlier, Sheila Jackson Lee, she's running for mayor, but she's also a member of Congress right now. Federal action, is there
Yeah.
a federal action that can come about?
I definitely think she's looking into that. She says it is a direct hit on Brown versus Board of Education. And a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And so she is going to the Department of Education and the Department of Justice to get their attention on this matter. So they will not go silently.
Yeah, the 64 Civil Rights Act will be the next thing to go in the Supreme Court, right?
Right, right.
It's just, look, we seem to get an idea with the Supreme Court that we currently have, that the way it's currently constituted, that things like this, once it gets there, it's going to be an issue for those who want what is right.
Right. And what they're telling people, the NAACP, to get riled people, they said, you know, how they said on A Time to Kill, close your eyes and imagine these kids were white. These parents would go nuts. And so they're telling people now is the time you have to stand up for our children. When we looked at the list of schools where these closures are happening, these are middle schools and elementary and high schools that have 75, 80% African American students. It's unacceptable.
And these centers, will they be staffed?
So there will be a warden, if you will, and then it'll be Zoom. They'll get their lessons via Zoom, and they'll have a monitor in there the whole time. So you're wondering, how effective do you think those will be? Do you think, are we just writing those kids off because they were talking back or noisy? And what is the plan for dealing with the discipline problems, other than just we're gonna throw them in the library?
Incredible. And so now the parents, the students, they lost the libraries. Now, like you said, this whole school to prison pipeline, this seems to only feed that. You stick kids in a room, and like you said, warden with a warden, really, it gives them, doesn't that, it kind of it pushes that mentality, that narrative that you guys belong locked away with somebody overseeing you.
Right. And one of the statistics we used in our story is, we're coming to Mike Miles, or the NAACP, the city leaders, everybody's coming with their statistics that this doesn't work. There's one from the U.S. National Commission on Libraries and Information Science that says school libraries, and these are more than 60 studies, I think they were saying, show that students with good libraries learn more, get better grades, and score higher on standardized testing than their peers in schools without libraries. And so the argument is just, well, wait and see, watch me, and you'll see that this works. And our kids will suffer in the meantime.
We talked about the Supreme Court and what we can and cannot expect from this court. Last month, as we all know, that they eliminated affirmative action in college admissions. Now, Reshonda, I want to just as a short segue mention this because this just happened today. The same folks, Edward Blum, the conservative activist who founded the American Alliance for Equal Rights, have filed a federal lawsuit against this organization called the Fearless Fund. It's an Atlanta-based venture capital fund, and the lawsuit is alleging that the Fearless Fund is engaging in unlawful racial discrimination by restricting eligibility for its grant competition to only Black women entrepreneurs. And they even cite the Civil Rights Act, not of 1964, but of 1866. And this Fearless Fund just for those who don't know what the Fearless Fund is, it's headed by Keisha Knight Pulliam. You might remember her from The Cosby
Mhm.
Show, Ariane Simone, and Ayanna Parsons. And they did put this together to support and empower Black women who own small businesses. And they got Bank of America, Costco, General Mills, MasterCard, and JP Morgan Chase behind it. Now, this conservative group wants to put an end to it, saying it's discrimination against white women owned businesses. This is where things are headed.
Yeah. They're going to protest everything. It's like with those memes we see on TikTok where you have a black person and a white person in a race, and the white person is like, okay, I can get to the finish line, but they're looking at the black person's lane, and it's all kind of obstacles. And that's what they don't get. I think now they're empowered. They don't care. They're like, well, everybody needs to be on equal footing, without looking at all of the things, the disadvantages that African American women have had in getting to this. There is no level playing field yet. And so that's what these things like the Fearless Fund are trying to do, is give us some type of leg up. And I think they're just going to go the way, because you're going to have the lawsuits, and then you're going to have the DeSantises of the world co-signing these lawsuits.
Well, and not even a leg up, but I think, like you said, just to give them at least a chance,
Clear
really,
path,
right?
a clear path.
It's like, look, and I wrote, when I was writing about this Fearless Fund today. Look, it's like the sheets have come off, the hoods have
Mhm.
come off, the dog whistles are now overt as ever.
Yeah.
Folks, this is America today. This
And
is America.
and 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 what really concerns me is that it's only going to get worse, because there are so many of us Black people we tend to be emotional. Joe Biden too old. We don't like Joe Biden, so we just gonna stay home. Or we don't like the particular person running because they didn't speak to my mama at the grocery store. And we have to look at, of the candidates that are there, the two that will win, that whole third party, that's an argument for another day, because I'm with it. I understand. But right now, who's going to win is a Democrat or a Republican.
How come we only hear about these third parties when it is,
Right,
some third when it's crunch time?
right. Can we hear about a third party the day after an election, and you start organizing so that the time the next election rolls around, we're ready? We don't hear about it until the months right before the election, and they want to come, and all that does is put somebody crazy in office.
Also, along those lines, too, the California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom. There's been a lot of talk of him running for president, and now he's agreed to do a debate with Ron DeSantis on Fox, on the Fox News network, with Sean Hannity. What's going on here? And this announcement comes, maybe it's a coincidence, maybe not, because Vice President Kamala Harris is, of course, from California, but it comes when new polls show that if Kamala Harris ran for president against the field right now, she would be the front runner.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on here?
I just think, President Joe Biden has some of the lowest approval ratings. I don't get it, but a lot of people just don't. They aren't inspired. They don't like they don't like any of the choices running for president. And so they're looking for a viable alternative. I don't know how to weigh in on that one way or the other. So I can still be objective there, but they're just looking for another alternative. Even Republicans on both sides, they don't like either candidate, and they're looking for somebody else.
Well, as I said before, I can understand, because what it's like biblical stuff. Man has dominated man to his harm. And last thing, as we wrap up, Thursday, of course, Donald Trump had to surrender to the federal court in Washington, D.C., a whole spectacle. And something about that. We know he was being arraigned on these serious charges
Mhm.
related to trying to overturn the election. But something I tweeted about, which I think is really telling. So since the Thursday morning, the news cameras on all the major networks have been trained in Jersey, where Trump was at his golf course, followed him on the highway to Newark Airport, and referred to his plane as Trump Force One, without and that's what he calls it. But I think you have to um, distinguish it. You have to say something along the lines as so-called Trump Force One, or something like that. You have to sort of you know let the people know that, look, that's his ego or whatever. We're not feeding it. But my point is, they followed him all the way to DC, kept the cameras trained all day long. It was wall to wall. You had on all the networks, you had all of the analysts. You had, every time they switched the host, it was the same thing: Trump, Trump, Trump. Right? Isn't this what uh, helped him in a large way get elected the first time?
Yes, this is what he wants. This is what he's sitting in Trump Force One watching and eating it all up. I don't know why we're following this like the OJ. It's the OJ case. It
Right.
is just ridiculous to follow the cars as they drive all across the state of New York, but the cameras are on it. As a news person, I understand we're giving the people the news, but it does not have to be 24/7. They're stuck in traffic, and the camera is still on there as the analysts repeat the same thing, and all
Yeah, what
that's
are we hoping to catch on the camera? I know we mentioned OJ. The thing with OJ at that point in time, it was so stunning, right? This
right.
huge athlete and star, uh, whatever. You kind of expected him to commit suicide. That's what a lot of people thought was going to
Yeah.
happen in that car, because he even said, "I got the gun," whatever. But what are you expecting to see this motorcade, going to the airport, and then you get all your helicopters up in the air, and you follow the aircraft, on that short flight from Newark to DC. I don't know if it was Dulles or Reagan National that he went into. I don't know, but it's still like a half-hour flight.
Mhm.
Um, and then you follow him as he gets into his motorcade, and they drive down the streets of Washington, D. What are you hoping to catch?
It is that nonstop coverage. I don't even think they're trying to get anything different. I think you would still serve if you tap out and go talk about the heat in Texas or something, and then come back. The car
Come
still
back.
gonna be on the freeway. It's not going anywhere. But this is what he wants. He's tweeting, telling us, I'm about to be arrested, so that his people can tune in, so that they can get outraged, so that they can send him more money to pay his bills.
Yep.
It is just utterly ridiculous.
Well, he's arraigned on 4 serious charges to go along with the 70 other charges combined from New York to Florida. And of course, we know that Georgia's coming up. And so I guess we'll get the same spectacle when he's asked to be, surrender himself to Georgia. And it might even be even more in Georgia, because in Georgia, the sheriff of Fulton County has said, listen, they're not fingerprinting him. They're not mugshotting him. Guess what? We are going to do that.
Yeah. See, this is giving him again what he wants. He wants this attention. And I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make. As Marjorie Taylor Greene says, she will vote for Trump even if he's in jail.
And there's plenty of Marjorie Tayller Greens. In fact, in 2016, there were 75 million of them who cast
Right.
a vote for Donald Trump. And an argument can be made that it could be 76 million this time. Because again, the coverage, I think, is just, we're in the media. You're an managing editor. I'm a senior writer. But there is plenty of other worthy news out there that's going on.
Exactly. And I don't understand why we feel the need to give this that nonstop coverage, because that's how we got Donald Trump in the first place.
If we gave missing black girls this type of coverage, we wouldn't have many missing black girls, would we?
Exactly.
It's a bottom line. Reshonda, Tate Billingsley, we know We appreciate you, and we appreciate you bringing this story to us this morning about what's going on in Houston with the school district and what they're doing again to just oh gosh, against the really primarily black and brown students who are going to feel the very brunt of this. Teachers leaving, can't blame the teachers, right?
Right. You can't blame them. They had they had a lot of the teachers that were told they were going to get a certain amount of money, but when they got their contracts, the contract was different for less than what they were told, and some of these
Mm.
teachers were like, I'm just out of here.
Wow. Well, we are probably going to hear a lot more about the Houston Independent School District and what they're doing there under Superintendent Mike Miles. And thanks to Reshonda, we're hearing this. Check out her column on the Defender Network. It's a must read. As I said at the top, she doesn't always go on like that in a column, in an opinion column, but you gotta read this. And who's more qualified than this best-selling author? 50 some odd books, NAAC award, CP Image Award, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Reshonda Tate Billingsley, more importantly for us, she is a regular contributor to Let It Be Known. So thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you all for joining. We'll see you next week.